It's a stick up. Faster news, faster lacrosse, faster thoughts. This week, I got the crew. I got Neil Barrett, Kevin Boilard, and DJ from Outside the Box podcast joining us today on the stick up. The quarterfinals just finished here, so we're going to talk about all that. And the semifinals is about to happen in Philly next weekend. We got a full show, so make sure you stay tuned. But without further ado, let's get into it. Now we are back, guys. I missed you guys. It's been like 2 weeks since the last episode of Stick Up because we had that bye week and everything. But now we're back and at 'em with the Stick Up. Now, like I said earlier, the PLL has the semifinals in Philly. So if you haven't gotten your tickets yet for Philadelphia, make sure you go ahead and do that. Now, you see my hat here. The Redwoods played against the Carolina Chaos last weekend, and the Redwoods were the one to pull it out. 14-12 is that final score here. Now, the Chaos, though, have one of the most special players in the league, and that's Owen Hiltz here. Now, Owen Hiltz was in the running to be Rookie of the Year. But with the Chaos losing, does that ruin Owen Hiltz's chance to be Rookie of the Year? Not sure here. Let's see what DJ thinks of this one.
Carolina Chaos may have lost this past weekend in the playoffs against the Redwoods, but it's just a quarterfinals game. And if you ask me, regular season awards should not factor into the playoffs. If you look at Owen Hiltz and the way he played during the regular season, he was an absolute spark plug for the Chaos, came in and provided them a new style of offense that they were able to run with and use to produce wins throughout the year. And he came through clutch on multiple moments. When you look at his stats, look at his play, look at the way he was able to affect the game, you have to say that he has more than an opportunity to win Rookie of the Year.
Dude, as much as I believe that playoffs shouldn't have anything to do with these individual awards, I still think they do. Neil, do you think Owen Hiltz has a shot at being Rookie of the Year, even though the Chaos lost?
What's up, Scotty? Thanks for having me on Stick Up this week. When it comes to Owen Hiltz and the Rookie of the Year award, I don't think he ever really had much of a chance for Rookie of the Year. His visa issues at the start of the season meant it was always going to be an uphill climb for him. Even before guys like Chris Kavanaugh and Logan McNaney put up the numbers they did, Owen was going to have to cover a lot of ground to make up for the games that he missed. To his credit, he did an incredible job of even making this a discussion, but the other guys just had too far of a lead before he got started. I think this season was worthy of the finalist nod, but in the end will come up just a tad short for the actual award. But I can't wait to see what Owen Hiltz does with a full season next year.
Wow, man. I don't know if Brian would like that answer from you. I feel like Owen Hiltz had a reasonable shot at getting the Rookie of the Year trophy, but you think otherwise. Kevin, do you think Owen Hiltz has a chance at being Rookie of the Year?
What's up, Scotty? Thanks for having me back. First of all, what a season for rookies across the board. Owen Hiltz was surprisingly dominant for the Chaos this year, but this award belongs to Chris Kavanaugh. Just look at the production. 37 points is one of the best rookie seasons we've ever seen. It's fifth most in the league this year and tied with his brother Pat Kavanaugh, who's an MVP finalist. Secondly, look at the scoring points, 25 of them. He trailed only his teammate Dylan Malloy and the number 1 overall pick in last year's draft, Brendan O'Neill. And lastly, the stretch shooting. Multiple 2-point goals from Chris Kavanaugh. He's already elite from distance, and he's only a rookie. When you look at the other candidates for this award, Owen Hiltz couldn't play the first couple of weeks. Logan McNaney didn't start the first couple of weeks. And Aiden Carroll played midfield the first couple of weeks before finding a more permanent home at attack. Chris Kavanaugh has gotten the job done at attack since day one, and that's why he's my Rookie of the Year.
All right, so we got both Kev and Neil saying Owen Hiltz doesn't really have a shot at it, and Kev saying Chris Kavanaugh is going to be your Rookie of the Year. Hey, I don't have a single problem with Chris Kavanaugh is the Rookie of the Year because you know what team he plays for? He plays for the California Redwoods. But before we go on talking about the Denver Outlaws and the semifinals, we got to talk about the other game that happened on the other side of the bracket, and that was the Philadelphia Waterdogs against the Maryland Whipsnakes here. Now, CJ Kurtz, one of the most dominant players in the last 3 games in the PLL. He had 17 points in his last 3 games. And guess what? His last 3 games, he's been playing attack. And in his first 2 games in the PLL, he was playing midfield. And guess how many points he had as a midfielder? 1. And my question is, did the Waterdogs finally figure out their attack situation or their lineup situation? Because you got CJ Kurtz at attack, he's putting up numbers, but you're also taking out a big guy in Jake Taylor. So, can you fit Jake Taylor into the mix, or do you just leave it the way it is? Neil, what do you think about this?
The record saying that I would have left that attack line alone and run CJ out of the box. The playoffs are not the place I want to be figuring out my offense. That being said, the Dogs finally won a game with CJ in the lineup and got Michael Sowers and Kieran McArdle clicking too. So maybe they have finally figured out that side of the ball. Either way, I don't think you're reinserting Jake Taylor into that lineup. He isn't going to be playing attack for them the rest of the season. And while I do think that in the future, his skill set could be used out of the box in and around the crease, a la a Westberg or a Jay Carlson, it doesn't feel like something you can just throw together in a week. So I'm riding with the lineup that got me to the semifinals and hoping that the wheels don't fall off.
I'm doing the same exact thing, Neil. I'm riding with Kieran McArdle, Mikey Sowers, and CJ Kurtz at that attack line. I love the way Jake Taylor plays, but their attack line right now is doing their thing, especially because they were the only ones who scored in that quarterfinal game against the Whip Snakes. Now, I know people are talking about running CJ from the midfield would help spread the ball and having Jake Taylor at attack, but the attack is playing well right now, and you don't want to mess with it during the playoffs. But Kev, I'm sure you got something else to say.
Look, if the goal was to maximize the potential of 3 players, CJ Kurtz, Kieran McArdle, and Michael Sowers, the Waterdogs nailed their attack lineup. But they were the only players who found the back of the net in the quarterfinals against the Whips. They got 0 goals and only 1 assist from their entire midfield in that game. I still think starting Jake Taylor at attack would have guaranteed you a 4th goal scorer and potentially unlocked your midfield. Think about it. If CJ Kurtz or Kieran McArdle runs through the box and draws a long stick, suddenly you've got a guy like Jack Hanna working against the shorty. I like that matchup. Ultimately, if you're Bill Tierney, you made your decision and you got to stick with it for the rest of the postseason. However, you spent the 9th overall pick on Jake Taylor. If he's not on your active roster next year, you better get something good for him in a trade.
Kevin never fails to bring up good points here. That is the 9th pick, and you do have to use them. But guys, the first pick is your priority. What do you say? That's what I'm saying. But DJ, what do you think here?
First off, CJ Kurtz has been absolutely phenomenal the last couple of weeks. It's what you expect from a first-round pick. It just took him a little minute because, well, granted, he was hurt. So we knew that he had to come back and he had to get his groove back. It only took him, 2 games, 3 games to figure it out. And boom, he's dropping 6, 7 points just like he was in college. 8 points in a game. It's absolutely crazy how skilled and competitive this guy is. So, of course, he was going to make his way into the roster. Now, what I have to say is Jake Taylor can still make the roster. I think you run him at midfield and you stick him out there every single rep. You put him on the inside. Now you have 5 Dodgers and you got a finisher on the inside. Makes it extremely hard to defend, but you don't fix what ain't broke.
Running Jake Taylor through the midfield, I don't know, my man. But who knows what Coach Tierney is thinking. Speaking of Coach Tierney, guys, if you haven't watched that documentary about the Waterdogs, you better watch it. It's about Tierney and the Waterdogs. Tierney said, losing is worse than dying because you got to live with it. And in my eyes, that's a bar, an absolute bar here. Now, we're not moving on to the semis yet because we got to talk about the Maryland Whip Snakes. Now, the Maryland Whip Snakes just lost to the Philadelphia Waterdogs in the quarterfinals. And remember when the Maryland Whip Snakes were like the Patriots of the league, like the Tom Brady Patriots of the league? Everybody was like, the Whip Snakes are the favorites. Whip Snakes this, Whip Snakes that. Now look at that. So last year, the Whip Snakes, they made it to the championship game, but this year they had an early departure in the playoffs. They actually almost didn't even make it into the playoffs. So I'm wondering, what do the Whip Snakes need to do to get back to the promised land? Kev, what do you think is going to fix the Whip Snakes?
I really don't think the Whips have to change much. Scotty, I told you a couple of weeks ago on this show, they have a winning culture, which I think is most important. They also have the best defense in the league, as well as elite face-off and wing play, and a couple promising players to build around on offense in TJ Malone and Aiden Carroll. Guys like Rob Pennell, Matt Rambo, and Colin Heacock aren't getting any younger, though. The Whips have the 3rd overall pick in this year's draft. I think they have to go offense with that pick.
They got to go offense with that pick. There's a couple good offensive players coming into the draft, but we're going to talk later about the draft. Now, Neil, what do you think is going to fix the Whips?
I think it's time for the Whips to fully embrace their youth movement. I know Stick Talk doesn't agree with me on this, but I think Rob Pennell still has a place in this league, just not with the Whips. To be fair, I never thought it was with the Whips, but I digress. The keys to this offense need to be handed over to TJ Malone, Aiden Carroll, Levi Anderson, and the rest of this young core. But otherwise, I think they're in very good shape. Jim Stagnita is still one of the best coaches in the league, and making the playoffs every year is essentially a lock. Statistically, they had the best defense in the league. Joe Nardella had yet another season where he is one of the 2 best face-off specialists in the league, and Emmett Carroll seems to have finally established himself as the number 1 in goal. So I don't think they need to change so much as clear out some of the old guard. A few key players in this upcoming draft, and this team will be extremely dangerous this season.
Kevin and Neil agreeing they need to pick up an offensive player with those older offensive players phasing out. I wonder who they will pick up. DJ, what do you think the Whip Snakes got to do?
Ironically, I don't think much needs to change for the Whip Snakes. Look at the season they had. They were a little slow coming out, and then they figured everything out, and they've been running like a well-oiled machine since they were able to put that all together. That is what Jim Stagnita does. He's a great coach, and he knows how to put his entire team together and get them in the right spots to not only be competitive, but to care about everything they're doing for the guy next to them. The Whip Snakes are going to be just fine like they always have been. They haven't missed the playoffs for a reason. I say you get the ball back into TJ Malone's hands and you let him be the driving force for your offense, and I think you end up back in the semis or championship games and more to come as your seasons continue.
In Stags, we trust, and that's absolutely a fact. If you listen to the last episode, the last couple of episodes of Stick Talk, I was always saying that Stags does what he needs to do in order to win the game. I'm not worried about the Whip Snakes too much, but I do want to see the Whip Snakes make some big moves in the offseason, and I want to see them make it back to the promised land and lose to the California Redwoods next year in the championship game. Now let's move over to the semifinals here. The Atlas and the Denver Outlaws are both coming off of bye weeks. I wonder if that's going to help them or hurt them, but who knows? We'll see later on Monday. But the Denver Outlaws, they face off against my California Redwoods, and the New York Atlas, they face off against the Philadelphia Waterdogs here. Now, some people have their winners. Some people want to say they don't know who's going to win. I already know who's going to win because I make the right calls. Don't look at my pick'em records, okay? But let's ask the boys here. Let's ask the boys to see who is going to be the semifinal winner. Kev, what do you think here?
I'm going with New York over Philadelphia in the East. Both offenses are humming. I'm expecting another shootout, but I picked the Atlas to win it all before the season, so I got to stick with them. And I trust Liam Entenmann to be the difference maker in this game. In the West, I'm going with the other number 1 seed, the Denver Outlaws. They were a super team all year. California made an incredible run to get here, and I really like their future prospects, but I'm sorry, Scotty. I think the Woods run ends here until next season.
I hate that. I hate everything about that. 1, I hate that you have the California Redwoods losing. And then 2, there's no way in God's name the PLL is going to allow 2 number 1 seeds to make it to the championship game. The PLL stands for Parity League.
What did he say?
I just made that up, but it's very true. Okay. Now, DJ, what do you think is going to happen in these semis?
Semifinals weekend is going to be scenes. This is going to be some of the most exciting games we've gotten, not only of the year, but of all time. When you look at the matchup on the East, two teams that absolutely hate each other, two teams that are very familiar with each other, one team that's proving and trying to prove that they have been what they have been all season long and make their first championship game, another team trying to return to the championship game after having a very fluke season last year. I'm going to take Atlas because they just look way too good right now. On the flip side, Denver hasn't played in a month, and California Redwoods, are the hottest team in the PLL. It's just a matter of, can Denver bounce back and be ready? I don't know. I'm going to take the Redwoods.
Finally, somebody had some sense here. Good pick, DJ. I'm not being biased or anything here, but that's a good pick by my boy DJ. He's got the Atlas against the California Redwoods. All right, now the Atlas have a powerful attack. I don't know if I see the Waterdogs stopping Xander Dixon, Connor Schellenberger, and Jeff Teat, but the Waterdogs also do have an attack of their own, which we talked about earlier. But the Redwoods, DJ just called them the hottest team in the league. I have no problem with that. Neil, make your prediction here.
But New York and Denver are next level this season. And I didn't see anything this past weekend that makes me think Philly or California will be able to overcome the Atlas and Outlaws. For as good as Philly has looked the last 2 weeks offensively, the defense has given up 32 goals. And I don't expect to see Liam Intamin below 40% like he was 2 weeks ago when these two teams matched up. Similarly, I don't think this is the same Denver team that California beat in week 1. I fully expect to see the team that won by 6 goals during California's homecoming weekend. The one thing that Denver will have to overcome is rust from not having played in a month, but as long as they get their legs under them within the first quarter or so, I think they'll be heading to championship weekend at Sports Illustrated Stadium.
Once again, Neil and Kevin coming to agreement here, putting the number one teams as the teams that will be in the championship game in Harrison, New Jersey at Red Bull Arena, whatever they want to call it, Sports Illustrated Arena. Okay, I'm a New Jersey guy. I can call it what I want. Okay. Now, Neil brought up a good point with the rust thing. I always worry about teams coming off of a bye week, a little rusty, and in the playoffs. I'm not sure if it's an advantage or not to come in fully rested, okay, because you got to get the wheels going all over again here. Okay, speaking of getting the wheels going, spring lacrosse coming up in the spring, okay? Not a good transition, but we're just going to rock with it here, okay? We were talking about college lacrosse on Stick Talk, and we were talking about mock drafts because we had a problem with it on the show. We were talking about how no mock draft had Joey Spallina as their number one draft pick. Now, some people were agreeing with us. Some people were disagreeing with us. Now, I wanted to know what the guys here on Stick Up thought here. Now, DJ, who are your top 3 picks in next year's mock draft?
The draft that's coming up next year, it's way too early to really be talking about it, but there are tons and tons of great athletes that are up for grabs. It's going to be an interesting vibe to see what happens. But I got to look at the draft first, looking at who's coming up. The Archers catch my eye first. I think that they're going to be looking at an attacker or a midfielder. So my top 3 picks there, it would be Spanos, Spallina, or Matt Collison, but I think the order would be Spallina, Collison, and then Spanos. You also have Bobby Van Buren and Colin Brown being thrown in the mix there. It just all depends on who wants what and when they go.
All right. DJ has Spallina as the number one draft pick with some other offensive players like Collison and Spanos, and he also added in BVB. Okay, good picks. Neil, who do you think are the first 3 picks in next year's PLL draft?
What your favorite analyst's favorite analyst is saying on social media, the number 1 pick is Joey Spallina. I don't care what team has the pick or who wants to trade for it and what they're going to get out of it. Not picking Joey Spallina is going to be a mistake. Ignoring the trade scenarios for a moment and sticking with the Archers at number 1, the pick is still Joey Spallina. And with all of the rumored changes coming to the Archers offense next season, I think he will slot right in as the QB of that offense for the next 10 plus years. At number 2, I have Bobby Van Buren from The Ohio State University. The Cannons have an aging defense that was the worst in the league this season, and BVB should be the anchor they build that defense around for the foreseeable future. Pick 3 is where I think things start to get a little bit interesting with several key names having the potential, but I'm going to go with Mikey Weishar. I think his skill set is a perfect complement to the Whips youth movement, and the fact that he can play both attack and midfield at the next level will mean he can make an impact immediately.
Oh, yeah. I see what you're saying here, Neil. I see exactly what you're saying here. Those are actually the same top 3 picks that we had on Stick Talk. We had Joey Spallina, Bobby Van Buren, and Bobby Van Buren and Mikey Weishar as the top 3 picks here. Now let's bring it over to Kevin for what he thinks is going to be the first 3 draft picks in next year's draft.
A lot that can change between now and next year's draft, but one thing that won't change is the Archers needing help on offense. The obvious fit here is Joey Spallina out of Syracuse. Utah would benefit greatly from his ability to facilitate offense, but watch out for Silas Richmond out of Albany. He's a right-handed Connor Fields and perhaps more creative. He should be in the first round of everyone's mock draft, and yes, I think he has the potential to go number 1 overall. At number 2, the Cannons, they're in the complete opposite end of the spectrum. They had the worst defense in the league. I got them taking Will Schaller out of Maryland. Maryland defensemen are about as safe a bet as you can find in the PLL draft year over year, and Schaller was an elite cover defenseman last season. And that brings us to the Whipsinks at number 3. We obviously know their connections to the Terps run deep. I got them taking Eric Spanos, giving them a PLL caliber body and a dynamic offensive weapon that can contribute at either attack or midfield from day one.
Kevin, going with Joey Spallina, Will Schaller, and Eric Spanos. Okay, got some good picks there too, Kev. I'm excited to see. And yes, don't forget about Silas Richmond. He's an Albany attackman that was going off last year. If he scores the way he was scoring last year, yeah, I have no doubt that he will go in the first round. Now, guys, I've been talking about it here. I've been talking about the semifinals. It's Labor Day weekend. Okay, it's actually my last week before I have to become a teacher again, but we're not going to worry about that. We're going to worry about what goes on Monday. So we have the Redwoods playing against the Denver Outlaws, and we have the New York Atlas playing against the Philadelphia Waterdogs. We've got 2 great games here. Guys, you got to make sure you guys watch them because we got a full day of lacrosse on Labor Day weekend. Guys, it's like eat some hot dogs, eat some potato chips, watch some PLL. What else can you want here? Before I go off on a tangent, guys, let me just end this show. Thanks for joining us on another episode of Stick Up. I'm your host, Scotty Royster. Shout out to the boys, DJ, Neil Barrett, and Kevin Boylard for joining me on the show. Remember, if you guys want to be on the show, just send me a DM, and I will gladly have you on the show. But it's your boy, Scotty, signing off. I'll catch you guys later. Peace out.